very seriously. However, more recently, I participated in Office of Planning activities that dealt with the following. The issues of economic development plans for the district, sustainable DC, the Height Act proposals, and finally, the zoning regulation rewrite. Some of these plans went on for months, yet in each case, the same thing happened. The public was encouraged to articulate their key needs and concerns and goals and objectives that they would like to see in their communities or citywide. But as the process went on, their wishes suddenly came off the table. What emerged was a list of what the former planning director, or I guess the Gray administration, wanted, but it was sold as if it had the imprimatur of the community. Here's where I think the budget impact comes in. I don't know how much was spent, but I know that these processes took a great deal of time, involved a lot of logistics, feeding people, and many other things. And what it seems to have done is to taken away completely from some of the focuses, the foci, shall we say, that you would expect from the planning office. For example, one of the things we were told over and over again in the zoning regulation rewrite was that it was necessary to create more single-family housing and to make it more affordable. And yet, I'm not aware that we actually have an affordable housing plan from the Office of Planning that we're planning on implementing. So this is the concern that I have about the way the process worked. It seems to have distracted rather than supported the activities of
Just a moment.
Yes, sir.
Well, I want the next person up there. I'm sorry, go on.
Of course. This very, very ponderous process that we were engaged in to take the community through these planning exercises, then to take much of what the community articulated out of the process altogether, and then go forward and say, this is what the community told us to do. This distracted, I think, from many of the things that you would expect a planning office to do in a community. For example, if you're concerned about your neighborhood business districts, and while we have something like 130 neighborhoods in DC, the Economic Development Partnership estimates that there are about 36 or 37 business districts. There are very, very few resources that go into the neighborhood business districts anymore, and yet we know that we're putting millions and millions of dollars into large-scale developments throughout the District of Columbia. One of the things, for example, that I complained about repeatedly, both in Sustainable DC and in the zoning regulation rewrite, because I'm a solar activist and a solar homeowner, is that the pop-ups that are occurring, the vertical height expansions all over our community, are going to begin threatening solar installations the more prevalent that they become. And there's going to be a necessity for some sort of regulatory or code rewrite to prevent people who are generating their own electricity from having that shaded by matter of right pop-ups that occur. I was assured over and over again that this would not be a problem, and that if it was, it would be taken care of. It's beginning to become a problem now for the first time, and it's going to continue as more solar penetration occurs. So those are some of the key issues that I have, Mr. Mendelson, and I won't take any more of your time since you've got a long day already. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Robinson. Before I turn to Ms. Aubrun, it turns out Ann Bowie is not here. Is Patricia... Well, do you want to testify? Well, I've asked several times for you to come to the table. And while you're coming forward, Ms. Aubrun, do you want to proceed? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the DC Council, for your time regarding this important topic. My name is Benedict Aubrun, and I will testify on behalf of the Reed-Cooke Neighborhood Association. What the ZRR exercise has demonstrated is now we know what doesn't work. Several resident groups have come up with the right suggestions to make a major edit of the current zoning code. The fiscal year 2015 budget should be all about the future of the District of Columbia, both neighborhoods' future and the business community's future. All people using the DCMR for zoning deserve an easy access to a zoning code that has the least possible complexity. This budget should be allocated to the proper divisions of OP to make the staff's work more efficient. The City Council has the power of the purse to make this difference. We believe that the residents' money should be used in their interest and their well-being and preparation of clear and understandable zoning regulations. Higher priority places to spend money are to provide good funding to transportation system, repair gas leaks, upgrade HDC water pipes, fix problems of current sinkholes, provide good road infrastructures, provide real reform to protect existing single-family houses and affordable housing, provide better fiscal reforms, provide safety and public health services, provide funding for school renovations. The City Council needs to take action to provide further directions to OP. That is, the City Council needs to assume tighter budget oversight of OP on a quarterly basis by the Committee of the Whole, at least until solutions have been found for the ZRR debacle. The City Council should impose sanctions and funding limits on OP until it demonstrates respect through the budget process to create an open ZRR rewrite process. It is time for the City Council to change OP's actions and orientations culture from favoring the developers to heed the concerns of the residents and to make governmental agencies accountable for their actions. We wish to remind the City Council that OP has reached out to developers for the ZRR and for participation in attending hearings to testify, while there has been little or no outreach to the residents. RCNA endorses adding funding to provide for hiring the new 11 full-time equivalents, page B163010, for neighborhood planning, as long as those 11 FTEs serve the neighborhoods of DC as liaisons and represent the residents in the internal work of the Office of Planning. The City Council should monitor the hiring and the assignment of those 11 new personnel to ensure that OP's new recruits are assigned to positions that will represent and work for the residents. When major edits to the proposed ZRR legislation and other aspects of the ZRR are made that improve the current code, input from this new position must be integral to the process, with the assistance of residents, neighborhood and civic associations, ANCs and different organizations. Until OP's behavior towards residents improves, adjustments to salaries should remain unfunded. Improvement in conduct of the Office of Planning can be recognized when OP regains credibility from the population. OP uses transparency and fairness in the process. OP regains the trust of the residents lost over the ZRR. OP demonstrates loyalty to its residents and not only the developers. HPRB should have its revenue increased to pursue its work in preserving and reinforcing historic district policies to save them from abusive redevelopment and allowing more resources to fund programs such as the Conservation District, referred in the new Historic Preservation Plan 2016, page 63. Finally, the City Council should not confirm a permanent director of the Office of Planning until the 2014 mayoral election is decided. The new mayor should be the one to appoint the new director of planning and not the lame duck mayor. The residents of the District of Columbia should have an opportunity to ensure that a qualified candidate is selected and will fully represent them. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Aubrun. Ms. Hemberger.
Hi, my name is Sue Hemberger. Over the past 2 years, as I've participated in the zoning regulations review process, as well as the debates over the fate of the Hyde Act, I've routinely found myself comparing the work of the District's Office of Planning with the work that's been done by planners in other major U.S. cities, including New York, Portland, and Philadelphia, when they've confronted similar issues, and locally with the work of planners at NCPC, the Metropolitan Washington Council of Governments, and as well as Montgomery and Arlington counties. Consistently, OP's work is strikingly substandard compared to these other planning efforts in at least 3 different areas. First, data collection and analysis, which rarely seems to precede or inform DC's planning efforts. Secondly, draftsmanship. Judging from the ZRR, OP can't write regs or even make charts. And thirdly, public outreach. Frankly, we're tired of being lied to and having our interests ignored. We want to see an agency that listens, learns, and persuades. These are deficiencies that have existed for at least the last decade, but as we saw at last month's Oversight hearing, this is an agency that's currently in crisis. We've reached a point where council oversight needs to involve more than just verbal chastisement. It's imperative that you send a clear message that if OP wishes to retain control of its budget, then it needs to do its job better. This year, you could start the process of putting this agency back on the right track by transferring some of OP's funds and functions to other agencies, and by earmarking other funds for specific offices or projects within the Office of Planning. I've already suggested two aspects of the zoning rewrite, the public outreach and the streamlining functions, and the funding associated with them, could be moved from the Office of Planning to the Office of Zoning. Within OP, I think funds could be earmarked for use by the State Data Center and the Historic Preservation Office, and specific types of research could be requested. For example, to make informed decisions about the zoning regulations review, we would need research on the conversion of single-family housing to multifamily units, a survey of existing conditions with respect to parking provision downtown, an inventory of historic buildings in the proposed expanded new downtown, and a survey and mapping of multifamily buildings throughout the city that currently do not have on-site parking, and a comparison of the rents in those buildings with comparables nearby where on-site parking is available. This is the sort of work that planners in other jurisdictions routinely do on an ongoing basis, and the sort of work that informs the policies they develop. By contrast, we still haven't seen, for example, the infrastructure analyses called for in the 2006 comp plans, and we're headed into the second round of comp plan amendments. If we want to plan intelligently, rather than simply make deals, we need to study what is and what isn't working, and to have a clear sense of existing conditions before changes are proposed. The one-size-fits-all proposals and ever-changing numbers that have characterized the ZRR are a symptom of the lack of planning and analyses that are endemic to this agency. I've already discussed draftsmanship and included an appendix with examples in my testimony on the Office of Zoning, so I'll go straight to the public outreach issue. The bottom line is that OP consistently misrepresents its proposals. The recent ANC-specific outreach materials, while a belated step forward in terms of attempting to engage communities by providing area-specific information, continue this pattern. Just to pick three glaring examples, in roof heights, we're treated to a discussion of the measurement rule that lowers heights, but no mention of the fact that enclosed penthouses will now be allowed on roofs. The major proposals for downtown don't include 40 feet of upzoning in the new downtown areas that are currently C3C, the elimination of PUDs in those areas, and the elimination of FAR requirements, and transit zones, where they say they're being eliminated, and in fact, that just means they're being mapped universally rather than selectively. There are two possibilities here, neither of which is acceptable. Either OP lacks the courage of its convictions and is unwilling and unable to present the sort of fact-based analyses that would convince intelligent and reasonable people of the merits of their various policy proposals, or OP assumes that the citizens of DC aren't reasonable and intelligent people, simply obstacles to be gotten around by any means necessary. Remember that OP's critics in this process are people who are committed to urbanism. We've voted with our feet and probably our wallets, and who love both our neighborhoods and this city. The agency needs to develop a collaborative relationship with the people who pay their salaries and who will actually have to live with the consequences of the policies they're proposing. And until it does, it needs to be kept on a much shorter leash. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms.